Hi, welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. Ask any questions in the comments or hashtag QBATE on Twitter. And if you need any more advice, do join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. There are accountants and business experts on hand 24/7. QuickBooks also have a dedicated COVID-19 information site. Just go to the QuickBooks website, scroll down a little bit and click on the big Learn More button under the header Support for you and your business during COVID-19. So hello, I'm Laura Hitchcock and I run littlestuff.co.uk, which I started way back in 2003. I was working full-time as an IT support technician at the time. I had 2 children under the age of 3 and I was pregnant with number 3. Good move. And I was trying to shop for stuff for the new baby. Didn't really want to go shopping with the bump and the 2 babies. And it was at the early days of the internet and I was trying to find things online and it was quite tricky to find stuff apart from the obvious high street stores. And at the same time, I was made redundant. So that was a nice welcome surprise. So I was moaning about this to my husband that I'm trying to shop, couldn't find anything. And he said, well, look, you haven't got a job. Why don't you do this thing where you can collect everything on the internet, all the other small stores, all in one place? And that's how Little Stuff started. It was a directory of small independent shops supplying stuff for mums who were busy and trying to find things and didn't have much time. The directory grew and it got bigger and bigger, but alongside it, I started getting questions from people saying, where can I find one of these? Do you know what this one is like? Which one of these do you recommend? And I found that rather than emailing everybody, I started a blog alongside the directory to start answering the questions and to provide a bit more personal information, share my experiences as a new mum at the time and mums of toddlers. And the blog grew. People wanted that personal feedback rather than talking to or not talking to a directory. And eventually the blog grew up and took over from the directory. The directory died away and the blog stayed. And that's what Little Stuff is today. Over the years, obviously, my children grew, which, kids do sometimes. And so where I started out talking about cots and pushchairs and how to get your baby to sleep through the night and the problems of weaning, now I find myself with a house full of teenagers. And a 4th child came along. So now talking about cots and high chairs, I haven't done that for 10 years. I haven't weaned a baby for 10 years. So I'm not good at that anymore. I don't want to talk about things I'm not actually expert in. So Little Stuff changed its focus over the years too. And now I just talk about parenting teenagers, which is just as difficult a time as parenting toddlers, but less people talk about it. It's much more lonely, I think. People expect to collaborate online with other parents of babies and toddlers, and you're used to the baby groups and things. But by the time you get to teenagers, it's more private. You don't share stuff online because your teenagers don't like you doing so. And it's a tricky time for parents and for teenagers, obviously. So Little Stuff has moved with me over the years. And now we talk about, we still do the reviews, we still do competitions, we still do consumer guides, but we are talking about older kids, slightly older stage in life parents. We work with all the biggest brands and have done over the years. We've won awards. I've sat on high street brand advisory panels. And it's just all about anything that a mum would want to buy or need to know. So it might be car insurance. It might be where to go on holiday. It might be the best gin to buy for Christmas. Could be anything. We do cooking. We do clothing. We do lifestyle, interiors, all sorts of stuff. Basically a lifestyle magazine for parents, teenagers, only it's written by somebody with not really much of a sense of style, who forgets stuff a lot, and I'm a terrible housekeeper. That's true, actually. I was once sacked as a housekeeper for being bad at my job. I also have a magazine. Little Stuff had a newsletter that went out once a month. I had, over the years, a large database of subscribers who wanted to hear from me, and I sent out a newsletter once a month. And of the 15,000 subscribers, probably 20 would click on the newsletter. So I thought things have to change. I've got this list. People want to hear. I need to give them something different. So I tried out a magazine style. It's a magazine blog. I have the content there. So I started a digital magazine, which went out instead of just a little newsletter, people flicked through it with a cup of coffee. And it was a whole new thing. All of a sudden, of the 15,000 subscribers, half of them were clicking and reading through. And it was, okay, people like this, so I have to keep this going. So Little Stuff has the website itself and the monthly digital magazine, which goes out to subscribers. And then most of them, when I don't forget, are stored on the website as well, so people can flip back through old copies. Alongside, obviously, running Little Stuff, which started off as a little background hobby job and is now a full-time, pays the mortgage job. I'm obviously raising a family, and I have the 4 kids. And my oldest, when he was 10, was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, which meant that he missed a lot of school. He basically missed most of his year 6, his last year in primary school. And then his first year in high school, his attendance was 20%. It was terrible. But gradually he got better and healthier, as you know, as kids do, thankfully. And then by the time he was in year 9, he was back full time, full health, and he'd worked hard and he'd got back up to the top 5% of his class, which was great. But then we noticed he was heading into GCSE years, the stress was starting to build and his health was starting to deteriorate again. At the same time, our second son had started high school and was suffering very real anxiety issues, wasn't coping very well. And we started to think there must be another way, there must be another option. We want to do a bit more traveling as a family. The job opportunities arise outside of school holidays because obviously you're not allowed to travel in school. And so we thought maybe home education is something we could give a try with the kids. We talked it through with them. And we wondered if it was something they might like to do. And we expected them all to say, yes, no school. And actually they didn't. They all said, can we think about it? And we talked it through as a family, and they came back over the course of a few days. What happens about this? What do I do about seeing my friends? Obviously, they still see their friends. What do I do if I want to join a club? You can still go to clubs. What if I want to go back to school? You can still go back to school. We kept it really flexible and open. And just thought, well, we'll give it a go and see how it works for us as a family. And that was 7 years ago, and we haven't looked back. My oldest is now 21. He's done his GCSEs, he's done his A-levels. He's out earning a career in a tech industry, traveling the world and having a great time. The 18-year-old is sitting his A-levels a year later than his peers because he took his own time to get there, but heading off to university next September when he gets around to taking his exams. We got the 17-year-old is heading for the army, and my 13-year-old daughter is not doing very much in the way of academics at the moment, but loving art and English. She writes an awful lot and just exploring her interests and deciding what she wants to do. So we balance the family along with the business together and hopefully juggle it all and make it work. Trying to keep up with the business alongside the family can be tricky sometimes, possibly a little easier now they're teenagers because they can do their own thing. We can say, here's your work, and we can be left them to do it. I don't tend to set timetables with them. I can get on with my work and they know what's expected of them in the day. So actually these days it's a little easier than when they were younger, but we juggle it all between us and hopefully we make it work okay. So that's me, that's Little Stuff. And I'm going to hopefully take some questions and hear if you want to know anything. Okay, I've got a question from Kathy from a Twitter DM. Have you found that Little Stuff is busier during lockdown? Do you know what I have? It's gone absolutely mad. Some of the parts of the website, stuff that I wrote 10 years ago. I did a whole series 10 years ago about old school dinners puddings, which is things like pink custard, cornflake tart, fudge tart, old basic simple pudding recipes. And the traffic to them during lockdown has gone absolutely mad. It's 800% increase. It's crazy. And I think we're all just looking for a little bit of comfort and home cooking. All of the cooking recipes have gone up. But I don't do a lot of clever cookery. I don't class myself as a chef. I'm a home mum in the kitchen. And I always do basic family recipes that all my kids will eat, and actually an awful lot these days about recipes that the teenagers can cook themselves for us. So that seems to be hitting a nerve of what people are looking for right down in lockdown. Also, we do a lot of stuff about how to freshen up a home on a budget. That's also doing really well. How to do things like tweaking a kid's bedroom to make it into a teenager's bedroom. And the other stuff that's doing really well is the tech reviews. People are looking for laptops for teenagers, first gaming PCs. My kids are all big PC online gamers. There's a lot of content on that on the website too. And those things, I guess it's the stuff that, because we've been at home for years, it's normal for us, but other people are discovering for the first time what works for them. Another question, Ellie from Facebook. With the family also at home, do you have timetables from when you're a blogger, business owner, teacher to when you're a mum and you do normal family things with the kids? Okay, this is the tricky one that took us a long time to work out. I'm sure anybody who runs their own business knows it's really difficult to switch off. There's always just one more email, you're always checking Twitter, or you just got to do this for Instagram. And it's really hard to not just dip in and out of the business all day, particularly when you're working from home and it's there constantly. But then you can find that you've spent 6 hours and you haven't seen the kids at all. So I try and allot my day. When the kids were younger, I had to be much stricter. As I said, it's easier now they're teenagers. But we used to do it when they were younger and we were starting out. We used to say 9 till 1 was the kids, because learning in school, although you're there from 9 till 3, say, there's a lot of distraction and there's a lot of moving around and lots of other things on your time. So the actual learning is about 2.5 hours worth of learning. So obviously when you're at home with the kids and you're one-on-one, it's much more intense and it's much more steady. So you only need a few hours to cover a whole day's worth effectively school teaching. So we used to say 9 till 1, no computers before 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 till 1 was the kids' time. And I would balance between the kids. We'd have tasks. We might go for a walk all together. We might be doing projects. We might be doing fun experiments. We might be doing cooking. But that was their time. And then after 1, they were free to do what they liked. And then I could do what I needed to do. Having 4 of them, obviously it helped because they occupy each other and play games together in the afternoon. So that helps separate the two. Lisa from Twitter. I'm looking at making homeschooling permanent since it's working really well for me since we've been in lockdown. Brilliant. I'm so pleased. Do you have any do's and don'ts that come top of mind when it comes to homeschooling? Yeah, just remember, you are schooled as much as your kids are. The general thinking is it takes a month of de-schooling for every year they've been in school. So it takes a long time to figure out what will work for you. And in the meantime, it's all right. You'll get there. It doesn't matter. Learning happens not just from a teacher teaching a class. As adults, we go and learn stuff because we're interested and we go and find out. And that's the way kids learn. That's the way they want to learn. When you're at home and you don't have to follow the curriculum, obviously at the moment, kids are at home, you're not home educating, it's not how they work, you're trying to keep up with the schoolwork at home, so you're following the curriculum, you're doing what the teacher says. When you're home educating, you're autonomous, you do what you want to do. If your kid is interested in hedgehogs, you can spend 3 weeks talking about hedgehogs, and you can make a hedgehog cake, which is science and dexterous skills and creativity, and can be maths because you're working out the recipe. You can do masses of art. You can do a whole day doing art because there's no lesson plan. There's no, we must do this and then we must do this and then we must do this. You can be completely child-led and go with what's interesting. So my biggest tip for anybody starting home educating is remember, you're not doing school at home. It's different. You learn differently, and be led by your child and do it together because it's really fun. Max from Facebook. Hi Laura, I have a passion for writing and I've been able to do it a lot more recently with time on my hands. Do you have any advice to someone who's looking to start out writing their own blogs and magazines? The biggest thing is just do it. Just start writing. Setting up a blog takes literally 5 minutes these days. Just get writing. Once you are writing more, you will learn what style you work best with, the things that interest you. Build up a portfolio of your own work. You can set yourself writing prompts. You can do a massive amount of research and learning on, for example, do you want to do journalism? Do you want to do copywriting? Do you just want to write a personal blog and a personal life story? Do what makes you happy and interested, become comfortable doing it, and then gradually look around for opportunities to do it more. Offer to write for other people. Some blogs will take guest posts from other people. If you're writing, not if you're saying, hi, I'm me and I'm a great writer, but if you've got something interesting to say and some information to share, lots of people take guest posts. Start talking to other bloggers, offer to write a post for them on their website, and just keep writing. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more opportunities will open up for you. Marcus from Twitter, do you get a lot of criticism about homeschooling, or do you find most people are supportive? Do you know what? I don't get a lot of criticism. I don't get masses of support. I get a lot of people looking at me slightly baffled, thinking I'm a bit weird. I think home education, we tend to call it home education in this country. Homeschooling is an American term. Home education in this country, we try not to say homeschooling because you're trying not to do school at home. The whole point is you're doing something different. However, since lockdown, everybody's been talking about homeschooling. So it's, we're just using both terms, I guess, at the moment. And it used to be the weirdos and the slight edge of society, the ones that opt out of mainstream that do it. But I think it's become ever increasingly popular over recent years, becoming more mainstream, and people are really seeing it as a third option. School's great. Don't get me wrong. I don't think school is evil. It just didn't work for my family at that time. And in fact, my daughter, the youngest one, was really happy in school. She had no problems in school at all. And if she had stayed in, I'm sure she would have been completely successful. She chose to come out because her brothers did. And there's always the option that she may go back in. Obviously, they're a bit older than her. And if once they've all moved on and left home, she may feel that being at home on her own, she wants to go back into school, and that will be absolutely fine. But actually, I've never had anybody say you're doing your kids a disservice by homeschooling them. Anybody who meets my kids can see that they're fine. They're not weird, antisocial kids. They're completely normal. They're sociable. They're bright. They're smart. They're fun to be with. So I've never had anybody say you're doing a harm. But equally, I don't ever have anybody saying, yay, brilliant, I'm going to help you with this, because it's a kind of you do it. If you opt out of the easy system of sending your kids to school, you take it on your own, and that's what you're working at. Annie from Facebook. Hi, Laura. My daughter, who's 19, is really struggling with anxiety during this time, as she can't see her friends and is wondering when we can go back to normality. Is there anything you've used or done that helped? I think the biggest thing for kids at the moment is technology. My kids don't have masses of local friends, and yet they have a massive social life because it's all online. I think parents can be frightened of letting their kids have screen time. They think we've got used to this idea that screen time must be limited and screen time is bad and online gaming is going to rot their brains. But actually, let them get on the computer and be sociable, because all the other kids out there are like them. There's a lot of teenagers out there, and let them use stuff like Discord and Twitch. They won't want to be on Facebook Messenger chatting to their friends. They'll use Instagram, but every single social media channel they use in a different way. But my kids tend to use Discord mostly, and they can video chat, and they can, type to each other. And they play games together a lot. The games that they play will introduce them to other like-minded people. It doesn't matter what the game is, really. And actually, you know what? Online gaming is really good for them. I've never really limited, as long as they've done the things that they have to do, I've never really limited their screen time and the online gaming they do, because that's their social life. That's where they're chatting. That's where they're making their friends. And they make real-life friends as well as just online friends. So I would say that if your daughter's really struggling, get her chatting online, get her friends and sit there and chat to each other, FaceTime with each other, and don't just have a conversation and turn it off. Leave the screen on. My kids a couple of them have two monitors, and one monitor will always be open with chat, and it's like having your mate in your room with you, and you leave it there all the time, and it becomes quite normal. And I know that sounds weird because it's not the same as having a person in the room with you, but having that casual chat all the time can really help with teenagers, especially when they're feeling lonely. I also find that one of my teenagers was very socially anxious, not confident in social situations. but could manage online. And I think as adults, we see that a lot as well, that when you're a very cautious, nervous, shy person in real life, online you can be a bit more confident. It's kind of easier. And I find that my anxious teenager could be more himself online and be more the person he wanted to be. And that really built his confidence. And now he's much more confident in real life, purely because he spent a few years chatting to people online. So definitely engage with the online communities and get out there and encourage her to make friends. Jamie from Facebook, what child safeguarding is there for children from parents with bad intentions? Is there any external monitoring? Okay, this is what everybody asks. Who's checking up on you? Well, firstly, home-educated kids aren't hidden away from society. They're out in the community. They're going to the shop. They're still seeing the doctor. They're still seeing other adults. Their neighbours see them. If there's a problem, it's no different to a family on your street that you know that there might be something going on. You also have an annual visit from a home education inspector. You don't have to have them in your home if you don't choose to. We always do. Some home ed families really don't like it. We always choose to let them in, and he comes in, he chats to the children, he sees the work they've been doing, and talks through with them, and then he writes a full report, and we get that back every year. If ever they find there may be cause for concern, they will report to social services exactly the same as a teacher would. And there is just as much contact with kids. They're not invisible. There is as much contact and monitoring of kids when they're home educated as they are in school. They just don't happen to be seeing a teacher every day. They're seeing other people instead. Claire from Twitter. Hi, Laura. It's been really nice listening to you this morning. Thank you very much. It's given me hope. I'm so glad. I'm a single parent, so it's just me and the kids. I'd love to do something that you've done, but I'm finding it hard to find inspiration. Where do you look for inspiration? Oh God, it's really hard to find time to write the stuff that I want to write, because every time, I guess because I've been doing it so long, but every time I think to myself, oh, I need to go and find out about this, or I want to buy this, which one do I need to buy? We all do it, during lockdown, my one big expense was I bought an air fryer. So naturally, I spent about a day reading reviews and researching and finding out which one was going to work for us and which one would be the best one. Having done all that research, I kept notes, because if I've looked for it, somebody else will want to look for it. So I tend to keep an idea all the time. I'm aware of anything that I'm struggling with, then other people will. I realised when my oldest was 17, he went through a typical teenager patch, and it was really difficult. And I found myself for the first time in like 10 years surfing parenting forums looking for help and advice. And I think it was then that I realised that, do you know what, I need to be writing about this stuff, because if I'm struggling with it, other people will be, and having to go and look for that help and advice. So I think it's find the time, because that's quite tricky. Particularly because Little Stuff is an income, so I have to write the stuff that makes some money and people will pay me to write. So I have to balance that with what I find is the stuff that I want to write is the better stuff. It's the more interesting stuff, and that's the stuff that people really want to read. So honestly, just anything during the day that you think, I wonder if I can do that, or how does that work, or which one of these is best, or I'm really struggling with this. They're the things you write about. Just keep a little note of it. Keep a notebook. Literally, I have a notebook and pen, and I just jot things down and I write notes to myself. So half the stuff I never get back to go and write, but keep a diary, and then you keep the notes, and you look at it and think, oh yeah, I'm going to write about that today. And then set yourself aside time once or twice a week is all you need probably to start with, and just write something that you've jotted down. Sharon from Facebook, good morning. Good morning. This has been perfect as the kids are starting to drive me mad with homeschooling. Some days it's fine, and other days I feel overwhelmed and tired with taking up a second job as a teacher. Do you have tips to avoid burnout? Absolutely. Stop. Take a break. If you're having a bad day, have a bad day. Take a day off. Have a duvet day. Watch films. Go for a walk. Do you know what? Going outside is brilliant. Just go for a walk. 2 hours walking in the woods. You'll have done biology, you'll have done PE, you probably have done science, geography, and all you've done is go for a walk. Go for a walk and chat. That's all you need to do. And if the kids aren't on it today, it doesn't matter. Take a day off. There's always tomorrow. The best thing about home education is that it's not a strict timetable. The important thing is you do it as the way that works for you and your family. Obviously, if your kids are completely switched off and every day is a bad day with your kids, mix up what you're doing. If they don't like sitting there, my daughter is 13. She loves to write. She loves art. She loves outdoors. She loves photography. She's really creative. Give her a maths workbook and she shuts down. She hates maths, is determined she's no good at it, and trying to do formal maths with her is an absolute battle. And I come back to it every 4 or 5 months thinking, right, now you've got to get on with this now. This time it's going to work. And it doesn't. She is just has this mental block and I cannot make her enjoy maths. But what I can do is make her go into a shop and buy things and work out the change. I can make her do cooking and give her a recipe for 2 and ask her to make it work for a family of 6. I can ask her to measure something up with me to see what we can do. We can do some sewing together and have to measure the fabric. There are basic math skills that she's learning without really realizing she's doing maths. So think sideways. If the kids aren't interested, do something fun with them, because almost everything you do in the home has an education element. And even if it doesn't, spending time with you makes it fun for them. They just want to spend some time. So sit down and watch 2 or 3 horrible histories together and have a laugh. Just give yourself a break. It's fine. Mary from Facebook. My boys love gaming. They're 15 and 18. I like knowing that they enjoy it and it provides me with something to do. But like all things, it's good in moderation. Do you have boundaries or advice that you have with your kids that you can share? I think if we're talking about parental controls here, it's because my kids have been online since they were very little, we have flat basic rules that, to me, it was like crossing the road. You know the rules and this is how we do it. When your kids are young, you have very flat, you don't cross the road unless I'm holding your hand. They go online when I say, where I say, and only doing the things that they're allowed. And as they get older, you release those boundaries and hopefully eventually they're able to cross the road on their own. But you don't suddenly go from never going near the road to crossing the road on their own. There are steps in that process where you maintain varying levels of control. And I think it's all about teaching kids right from the start what's okay and what's not okay. And the fact that if anything bothers them, they come to you and show you. So they're not allowed to give out their personal details. They're not allowed to, when they were young, they weren't allowed to make friends with people they didn't know in real life. Actual Facebook friends. They could chat to people, but only in controlled chat situations. I had to have access to their computer so that I could check what they were doing. As teenagers, I have very little parental controls because they've been doing it for 10 years and we have worked out a system that I trust them. They are open with me and it seems to work very well. Sorry. But it's quite tricky with teenagers because obviously at the point where you've relaxed all the controls is the point where problems can still occur with things like cyberbullying. So I think in that situation, it's really important to maintain communication, just to stay open and let them feel that it's okay to come to you and you won't judge them for what's gone on. You'll help them fix it. And if something feels wrong to them, they will come to you and say, this is a bit off, and you can talk it through together. Tanya from Twitter, last question. Do you collaborate with other parent bloggers? Is there value in sharing knowledge with other bloggers? Just a quick one because I'm running out of time. Yes, I do. There's definitely benefit in sharing knowledge with other bloggers. Join Facebook groups, talk to them on Twitter, share ideas. They're the only other people that will get it when you start talking about blogging. You need a group of bloggers around you to chat to, definitely. Okay, so I've run out of time. If you have any questions, do get in touch with the QuickBooks support team on Facebook. Accounts questions, obviously, I pay an accountant. I don't do the accountancy thing, so do get in touch with them. And if you have any more questions for me, do feel free to message me. I'm at Little Stuff on Twitter, or just search for Little Stuff's page on Facebook, or littlestuff.co.uk. There's a contact form on there. Just do get in touch. Coming up on Ask the Expert on tomorrow is Aaron Patrick, Head of Accounting at Bofix. And a reminder that if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. There are accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. Thank you very much and stay safe.